Good morning. I'm Commissioner Robert Bender. Welcome to the, as far as I know, the second virtual press conference that we've had for Escambia County. I'd also like to recognize Commissioner Doug Underhill, who we'll be hearing from in a moment. We'll also hear from County Administrator Janice Gilley, Director of Parks and Recreation Michael Rhodes, and Emergency Manager Eric Gilmore. I don't believe I see any other commissioners that have joined in, so we'll go ahead and get started. First off, today we would like to give a quick overview of the governor's orders and how they impact Escambia County citizens. One, we did take steps earlier this week to open the beaches. They opened 30 minutes before sunrise this morning. Public Works crews were busy getting ready on Pensacola Beach yesterday, and so far we have seemed to have a pretty good morning. There were about 500 cars in the parking lot last we saw, and the bridge was moving smoothly. Park East and Park West are also open, and we'll be hearing from the Gulf Islands National Seashore soon as to their plan, but we'll distribute that when we receive it. The governor's order goes into effect May 4th. Currently, the stay-at-home order has been extended. That we had been in place for the last 4 weeks. But on May 4th, restaurants may offer outdoor seating with 6-foot space between tables and indoor seating capacity at 25%. In senior living facilities, visitors are still prohibited. Parks, we'll hear from Michael Rhodes on what Escambia County is doing with that in a minute. Elective surgeries can resume on May 4th. I actually just talked to someone downstairs whose wife is doing some of those procedures and had said that the hospitals are testing those patients and then having them quarantine for 72 hours prior to the surgery. So again, to see if there's any signs of the virus or anything like that, but that is one of the procedures that I heard in place. Retail can operate at 25% of indoor capacity. Bars, gyms, and personal services
such as 1-850-433-7319
is now joining.
Bars, gyms, and personal services such as hair salons remain closed during this first period. Museums and libraries, we'll hear about that, at least the libraries here in a second. Outdoor exercise is allowed, such as walking, biking, fishing, hunting, running, and swimming. And then schools remain in distance learning. In terms of the vacation rental ban, that is still in effect until further notice. And of course, we are also following what we put in our order for the beaches, follow what the governor is including of groups of no more than 10 and maintaining a 6-foot distance. Face masks are recommended for all those in face-to-face interactions and where you can't social distance. Vulnerable individuals should avoid close contact with people outside their home. In terms of travel, avoid non-essential travel, including to U.S. states and cities outside of Florida with a significant presence of COVID-19. This is one thing that when I did talk to Dan Brown the other day, they are having to look for some of the services that the Gulf Islands National Services provides. They have to look at a larger market based on who would likely be coming to use those services as they evaluate their decision to reopen. Still make essential trips, go to work, buy groceries, get gas, go to the pharmacy, take your dog to the vet, and go to the bank. And adhere to guidelines from the CDC regarding isolation for 14 days following travel on a cruise or any international destination in any area with a significant presence of COVID-19. And then at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Doug Underhill, Commissioner Doug Underhill, to talk about the Perdido Key beaches.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Taking the time to join with us. The West Side beaches in Perdido Key are very unique, much different than radically different than the tourism beaches of Santa Rosa Island. So yes, things are very different out here. Keep in mind that only about 1/3 of our beds here on the island are in any kind of a rental program. So the lion's share of our beds are locals and locals families and owner occupied. We actually have no hotels on Perdido Key at all. When you're actually talking with Superintendent Dan Brown, 85% of the patrons that go to Johnson Beach are actually locals. So very different beach over here than what Robert Bender has to worry with over on Santa Rosa Island. I did receive word today from Tallahassee that at the 10 o'clock presser that the governor is going to be giving, we should expect to hear some good news with regard to the state parks. This is very important for Perdido Key because the Big Lagoon State Park is a very important water access off beach. And then, of course, a large part of the parking on the beach on Perdido Key is managed by the state. So we expect to hear some good news from them regarding Tacoma Bayou, Big Lagoon, and the state accesses on Perdido Key. The one that's kind of outlying is Superintendent Brown and the Gulf Islands National Seashore, as Commissioner Bender alluded to. They are looking at regional numbers before they can decide to open. However, when you consider that the lion's share of the the users are locals, we're kind of negotiating with them and really kind of arguing that point, that we need to go ahead and get, especially Johnson Beach, opened up. Keeping in mind that the more people that you have coming to the beach, if we're packing them into only a certain number of places, then it's much harder to follow those guidelines that Commissioner Bender just mentioned of social distancing. And we want to make sure that our citizens have the ability to social distance and access the water. The other thing that I'm really focused on this today is really working with the restaurateurs out here on the island as they prepare to open up their outdoor seating and minimum indoor seating on Monday. We've been be driving around the island this time, dressed a little incognito, spending time on the island, just monitoring how things are actually going. But it does appear that our restaurateurs are really chomping at the bit to go ahead and get open and get some of their employees back to work. Everybody should remember that the restaurants, especially in this area, is the ultimate form of transfer of wealth. We have a lot of wealth at rest here in Perdido Key. And when those folks go out to the restaurants, use the restaurants, that transfers that wealth down into the working class and into the economy. So very important for us to get that started. We're also going to be pushing very hard with the governor's office to lift the short-term rental ban. As I said, we have no hotels out here, so this hits us. This essentially is a 100% ban, on short-term beds here in Perdido Key, and we need to get that back open. Again, so that we can get our working class back to work and prospering. We've just come out of a winter time, and for those that provide services here on the island, that's their lean times. So this is the time when they should be able to really start prospering again, as they do in the summertime, and start putting up for the winter, which quite frankly isn't too far away. The other thing that we're very concerned about is that we know we have the Gulf of Mexico did not get nearly as cold as it usually does, and we are looking at the probability of a significant storm season here. And that storm season affects, we're a barrier island, and so we get affected by it, even if we don't get a direct hit. So our focus is really kind of leaning toward preparation for storm season, as it should be at this time of year every year. That's all that I have, so I'll go ahead and kick it back over to County Administrator Janice Gilley. Thank you.
That's great news about the state parks. I'm really glad that that's the news. Whenever I talked to them yesterday, I was hoping that's what was coming in Jacksonville. So we wanted to mention that our 7 public libraries will be opening on Monday. It will be for the 25% capacity. It will be a different schedule than folks have been used to. We are going to be looking at several of our libraries will be open Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and then on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We will provide all those details in a press release a little bit later this morning. And the reason why we're having to do that, part of it is because we are still accommodating those feeding programs, those food distribution programs that the library and our folks have been involved in. Our buildings, we are going to do what I would consider a soft opening, 25% for our buildings like the Ernie Lee McGahey building, the Central Office Complex, the Parks Department on 9 Mile Road, and then as I've previously mentioned, our libraries. And the idea is to allow for 25% of the capacity allowed should there be that number of citizens that need to come in. And that's our phase one as we like the rest of the state try and gradually roll back into full implementation of our facilities. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Was we are once again welcoming the public back to those particular facilities, and then there will be other governmental facilities that will come online as we go throughout the next week or two. So thank you. Mike, do you want to talk about parks?
Yes, ma'am, and good morning to you all. Making sure everybody can hear me. Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As you know, our parks are open along with the beaches today. And a quick point about the Perdido beach access beaches. I just got a report since the press conference had started that all is going well. We're almost at capacity. Everybody's behaving, and we do have staff out there monitoring and all good to go. And I'm not sure who drew up the weather for today, but they did a really good job. Great weather. Parks are open. Our neighborhood regional parks are open. What we are asking folks to do is be smart, be safe, use proper social distancing measures. But our parks are open. The playgrounds are open. The basketball courts are open. Again, please, we're asking the public to use proper social distancing measures if at all possible, and be smart. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and this past Tuesday, our county commissioners and BCC made a move and gave us guidance on how to handle youth athletics, which is near and dear to my heart, along with hundreds and hundreds of youth players and families across this area. And after review of the governor's executive orders from yesterday and making sure we were in the clear to move forward, we are allowing our youth athletic partners, our spring and summer sports providers, and the main sports that were active right now are baseball, softball, t-ball, and some kickball as well. We are allowing those folks to move forward with offering their sports. But what we are asking is for the first 2 weeks, to move into a practice phase. And frankly, what I'm saying by that is in coaching baseball and coaching other youth sports, it's a lot easier to control a practice setting than frankly it is at a playground or on a basketball court. Where you have an open to the public type situation. As a coach, we're asking these leagues and their coaches to handle practices accordingly, whether it be bringing in half the team, and normally the rosters are anywhere from 11 to 12 kids, bring in half the team for the first 45 minutes to an hour, and then the second half, bring in the rest of the team, or situate your practices in stations where you're rotating and staying in small groups of 3 or 4. It's a great way to practice. It also gets the kids back into shape and ease back into it. But we are allowing that to move forward starting Monday. And then again, we're implementing a 2-week practice phase, and all the athletic partners that we have spoken to since the Tuesday county commissioners meeting, they are very appreciative. They're in the process right now of working with families and parents to see who wants to resume play, and they will be, for the folks that just aren't comfortable, they will certainly be offering very lenient refunds amongst the athletic associations that are offering their sports. They'll work with those families accordingly. So they're in the phase right now of working that out and starting to resume a practice plan. Although they may be able to start practicing on Monday, I really think it'll be later next week or the second week of May when everybody gets reorganized and gets that practice plan back going for the 2-week practice phase. And we made it very clear to them to feel free to ask the Parks and Recreation Department for assistance. And what I'm saying by that is we can go in and remove bleachers. We can help them delineate where folks need to sit. Again, our spring sports, even soccer and lacrosse, it's very easy for families to sit along the fence perimeters or the field perimeters in lawn chairs. It's a great way to view the games once we get to that point after the practice phase. So we're comfortable with our move. We've got a lot of excited kids, I know that, and families, I feel they're responsible and they're gonna be smart about this. And we're being very smart about this and offering our services to help these leagues get back going. And like I said, if they need us to come help delineate where folks can sit and go from there as far as seating arrangements. But for the first 2 weeks, we'll have a practice phase. And again, they're reorganizing right now, getting their practice plan together, in which they'll be working with our office to let us know when they're getting back going. That's where we're at. We're excited. We're working very hand in hand with our spring and sports groups that offer at our county locations. And again, back to the parks, we're open, and bright and early this morning, the Perdido Key beach accesses were getting full. Again, I had just had a report. All is going well. We're monitoring it closely, and looks like a great weekend ahead. And thank you for your support, and look forward to a great weekend.
Hey, Mike, Commissioner Underhill here. I want to double tap on something that you just said there, and it's important to. And Robert, correct me if I speak out of turn with regard to your intent, but I believe the intent of the board with the action that we took on the parks, take the layer of government control out of the way, and allow each of those organizations to make the decisions that are right for those and for their kids. If you choose to start soon, that's fine, as long as we're able to maintain those social distancing. If they don't feel comfortable starting right now, they don't have to. The intent there was not to direct the citizens and those organizations to started. The intent there was to just enable them and to open that dialogue. So, Mike, I know you maintain a great dialogue with all our partner organizations, with our parks. So it's very important, I think, for the press to understand that our intent here is not to direct, but to enable. Thanks.
Eric Gilmore.
Good morning. So I'm going to update on the UWF testing site. This morning, the UWF testing site will start operations from 9 to 5. That's for our first responders. They're doing a dry run to get everything tweaked out before they open up to the public tomorrow. The site will run for 2 weeks, and then what was relayed to me from the incident commander was reevaluate from there to see if we needed to extend the site out further. It is a state-sponsored site, and we do appreciate the governor's office and the state agencies coming together to work with us to put another tool in our toolbox for community-based testing. It's just there to help augment what Community Health's been doing, Sacred Heart and those guys, Baptist in West Florida in our community. So we're hoping to see some good numbers. It is free to the public. There's no out-of-pocket cost. There is no pre-screening. Some of the things you need to be aware of is when you come, it is for Florida residents only. So if you are not a Florida resident, you will not be tested. You'll be removed from line. So you need to have your photo ID and place it on your dashboard once you reach the site. And then from there, you'll be directed through the cone pattern to take your information. And they're going to ask you things such as your current address, best phone number to reach you, so they can get back in touch with you and tell you your test results. And I've been told that the test results take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. They've contracted with a laboratory out in Texas, so they can get pretty good turnaround. And as I said, it is free for our community. So it is a Santa Rosa, Escambia County based testing site. And we encourage anybody who wants to get tested to go out and take advantage of that. Some of the things, so you will get your information back by phone. Once you arrive, you'll be greeted and directed by personnel in full medical protective gear. Your temperature will be checked by using a no-touch thermometer. And then, as I said, have your photo ID ready and on your dashboard for the personnel that's taking your information. They will get your first and last name, current address, a best phone number to get in touch with you. Once testing begins, you'll be asked, everybody, of course, be sitting next to a operational window in your vehicle. You will remain in your vehicle. It is a mobile site. You'll be drive-through, but make sure you are sitting next to an operational window where you can roll the window down so the person can take your sample. Once you've samples taken, you'll be sent to you'll be given departure information. You will be given information to take home with you on what to do while awaiting the test results, and keep the instruction sheet until you get your test results back from the test site. So as I said, this is another tool to help us out for community-based testing. It is open to anybody, no pre-screening whatsoever. It is at UWF, right there at the soccer complex. It's the parking lot at the soccer complex, parking lot SP2. Once you come onto University Drive, just as soon as you approach the UWF Sportsplex, you'll see a line of cones in the outside lane. And if you're intended on testing, please stay in the outside lane and get in the cone pattern to reach the parking lot SP2 to start your testing process. And that's your update. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, this concludes the talking points for now. If we'd take any questions that we have, we haven't seen any comments come in yet. I know we may have had some issues with getting those in, but we'll go ahead and take questions now.
Hey, this is Jim Little from the P&J. I guess, could you, out on Perdido Key with the parking spots are filling up, are there going to be extra parking out there? I know there's going to be a lot of demand for beaches this weekend, and I guess also on Casino, or I'm sorry, on Pensacola Beach, is there also going to be parking plans out there?
Jim, I'll go ahead and speak for Perdido Key. No, there are no plans for additional parking spots, and we should remember that the privately owned lots that are adjacent to our parking areas are towaway zones, and people should not be parking on those parcels and going over the dunes. Perdido Key is a very environmentally sensitive area. It has a limited amount of parking, so it's come early. But if there's not a place for you to park, then you should not stay on the island.
And then for Pensacola Beach, Park East, Park West, Casino Beach parking lot, all those public parking areas along the side of Fort Pickens remain open. And so we don't have any additional parking. We are not limiting parking this weekend.
I guess a follow-up question. This is for whoever can answer it. We saw yesterday the ATU union sent a email to the county administration about Escambia County community transport drivers being concerned about transporting people to and from these nursing homes that have large outbreaks. Are there proper measures in place to protect community transport drivers? I know it's an independent contractor, but what steps is the county doing to address that?
Yeah, this is Janice. I'm more than happy to answer that. So I do know that Tanya has been working. ITL Solutions is actually our contractor that we work for, that works with us for that kind of transit. And I know that they have been working for weeks in terms of making sure that we have provided PPE for them. And I know that they have also been working. Eric can talk about the fact that we've been also working to try and get them as a private contractor, their own PPE for their company as well. So they are a private provider. And from a standpoint of their employees, we are not able, due to the National Labor Relations Board's precedent, to get involved between ITL and their employees. So from that perspective, we're not able to, as a third party, intervene. However, like I said, we have been working to provide them with the proper PPE and answer questions as has come up. One of the other things I would mention is that due to the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, and also the Title VI Civil Rights Act, they're very clear about the services that we have to provide the public in a non-discriminatory way. And then, like I said, because of ADA, because of the funding that we receive, we also cannot discriminate in terms of the public services that we provide as it relates to public transportation. So we have been in constant communication with ITL in terms of our director, Ms. Ellis, and working with their company.
For anyone who hasn't seen, it does not appear that chat is working. And so if you would like to unmute and ask a question like Jim's done, we'd welcome those at this time.
If there aren't any other questions, and I don't know if they're coming in or not, but I did want to thank, I sent a note to our staff this morning, our public works, our animal services, lifeguards, parks, all of our folks that have been engaged in this preparation for the beach. I think our staff has done an excellent job. They have a schedule of when folks are going to be working, when they're going to be cleaning the portable facilities that we have put out on the beach. And I just can't thank them enough for their commitment to our community so that people can go and enjoy the amenities on the beach. So I just wanted to say that again to them. And our facility staff has also been engaged.
Janice, to build on that and what you said with the ITL, when I was at public safety yesterday on the beach, the director out there said that Dr. Edler, our medical director, was going to be coming out talking with the lifeguards tomorrow morning before they go out, talking about ways they can continue to protect themselves as they interact with the public. And again, some of our frontline employees getting additional information on how to protect themselves. And I asked them if there was any other additional equipment that they needed to perform their duty safely, and he felt they were adequate at this time.
Mm-hmm. And we have had Jimmy Madry, our EMS director. He has been out to actual ECAT a couple of times, training them on the proper usage of PPE. So we have been providing not only the protective materials for our employees, we've also been providing them training.
Commissioner Underhill, do you have something?
Yeah, Commissioner Bender, thank you very much. I want to close up by really reiterating to the press to understand that the communication between the county staff, county commissioners, the state, and the federal government is a perpetually ongoing two-way dialogue. It's not just that we're standing by waiting for directives from them, while obviously we have to execute the directives from them. The perspective and the view from Escambia County is critical to Tallahassee to be able to make decisions that fit the entire state. So I really want to really impress upon people that Janice and her team are in a constant two-way dialogue, and even with the Seashore, constantly negotiating with them and explaining why it's actually better to go ahead and open up Johnson Beach and things like that. So that two-way dialogue is a very important part of our job as representatives of the people of Escambia County. It's imperative that Tallahassee and Washington, D.C. understand the view from Escambia so that they can make the best decisions that they can. And I think that Janice and her team has done an extraordinarily good job of that.
+1-850-485-7589 is now joining.
Welcome, whoever joined. Okay, with that, we don't see any other questions. I'll do a last call for questions for someone to unmute. But of course, as Janice and Commissioner Underhill both said, our staff are the ones that have been working hard. I know someone asked how we've been preparing to reopen the beach, and we've been preparing for this for the last 6 weeks. I know Public Works staff was busy during the closing of the beach. We've been remarking parking lots, fixing the trolley stands, and so get a lot of that work knocked out that allows them to go. Yes, Jim, you have another question?
Yeah, I guess I'll ask one if no one else is. But my next question was on parks and things as we go into the phase 1 of the governor's plan. The executive order mandates with the local government monitor for large crowds, ensure large crowds don't gather, that type of thing. Is there a plan in place for the parks and even retail businesses, and make sure that people are following social distancing guidelines as in the governor's order?
Michael, are you still there? Do you want to talk about our plans for that? I know that Michael and his staff throughout the last few weeks have been checking on parks, especially after the city took down their basketball goals and things. They were out inspecting our parks, going to areas that they thought could be issues, and we didn't see them. Much like the city was monitoring the bluffs, although there were a lot of cars, they weren't seeing issues with people not social distancing. So let me see if Michael's still available. Commissioner Underhill, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, while Michael's coming up, Jim, that's actually conference is over. I'll be getting in the Jeep and driving and checking out all of our public facilities and doing precisely what was told to us by the governor. So staff is doing it. I think the commissioners are as well. I know that Commissioner May is very concerned about the parks in his district and things. So we are very actively monitoring it. I don't know that there's necessarily a plan so much as to just continually monitor, and I'll be taking that around the district all day, Jonathan as well, and not just the beach either, but also like the boat ramp, Navy Point, and Mahogany Mill. All of these locations where we could end up having the kind of violation that would set us back as a county and a state. I think that all the commissioners and staff are very aggressively monitoring that to make sure that we that a couple of bad apples don't hurt the rest of us.
Yes, commissioners, and just to reiterate what you guys said as well, we have staff in the field today, not just at the public beach access points, but floating around to all the districts, to the neighborhood and regional parks, doing our best to just remind people to cooperate, not necessarily in enforcement and getting confrontational, but just thanking folks for cooperating. And like you said, to not have setbacks so that we're back to square one. But again, we have folks in the field that they're going to report back to myself, and I'll work with the proper folks if we see a problem. But I don't anticipate that. I'm certainly hopeful. And I also want to thank our youth athletic partners, just as we wrap up with the park stuff. Frankly, it's easier at times to control what's going on a ball diamond or a soccer field because you have that coach that folks look up to, or the youth partners that are giving their own time to make this a safe environment for our kids that they care about so much. So sometimes the youth sports might be easier to actually monitor than various courts or various ball diamonds or open spaces across the community. So I want to thank our volunteers that I work with on a daily basis, which is in everybody's district, all 5 commissioners, because they're giving their time to make this work throughout the summer as well and make it a safe environment for kids.
Hey, Jim, what Mike just said with regard to that collaborative approach, 100% of reports that I'm getting the gravity of the situation. They understand we're all in this together. And so some of those videos that you saw, the drunk kid at spring break and things like that, that's never been representative of who we are in Escambia County anyway. But what we are seeing, 100% of the reports I'm hearing say that the citizens get it. The citizens are participating. The citizens are partners in compliance. They're not. It's not something that we're really having to be dictatorial on.
Thank you, Commissioner Underhill and Mike. Again, in talking with our public safety director yesterday, they felt that Escambia County as a whole was very compliant during the beach closure for the last 6 weeks. Yes, Rick, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. This is for Eric. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Rick, go ahead.
Okay. Listen, are we tracking the returns on the specimens that are being collected? Because I'm hearing from some of the nursing homes that they had samples taken last week, collections, and they still haven't gotten results. I mean, Dr. Lanza said that he had 1,000 cases on Tuesday that were still pending. So that 24 to 48 hours doesn't seem to be accurate.
Okay, I can follow up with that. There is an incident management team that's been established for Region 1 and Region 2, and I can pose that question to them and get an answer back to you. But there's an incident management team established for long-term care facilities, and I will follow back up with you on that, Rick.
Okay, I appreciate it. I do have a request. I understand y'all stopped doing the collection report, but it was valuable for us as media. We don't need to know the negatives and the positives, but if we just knew how many test samples how many specimens were collected each day, that gives us a feel for what's happening out there. I just feel like we don't have any sort of check and balance on what's going on with the testing.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right,
Thank you.
And Rick, I think as the state testing facility comes online, I know that Sacred Heart let me know that they would have that antibody testing available next week. having our testing ability continue to expand is something that's going to help us understand what's going on in Escambia County, like it has over these last 6-7 weeks. So anyway, well, I appreciate it. As I was saying, though, of course, we felt that public safety felt that Escambia County was fairly compliant. And of course, we would ask to continue to ask our citizens and visitors to follow the CDC guidelines and the recommendations that we have of groups of no more than 10 and keeping the 6-foot distancing to help us combat the spread of the virus. So with that, thank you all for joining us this morning and hope everyone has a great Friday.